The platypus. When the first platypus pelt reached London in 1799, naturalists assumed it was a hoax, a duckbill stitched onto a beaver sold to fool a museum. The pelt was real, the animal was real, and the joke has only gotten worse since. This one mammal lays eggs, oozes milk straight out of skin patches because it has no nipples, hunts with its eyes and ears and nose all clamped shut, picks up tiny electrical signals from prey muscles in its bill, and glows blue-green under a black light. That's 5 things no other mammal does. Last year, a Royal Society paper added a 6th. Researchers found hollow melanosomes inside platypus fur, the kind of microscopic structure previously documented only in birds. Out of more than 100 mammal species checked, no other one has them. The hollow part doesn't even produce iridescent color the way it does in feathers. It just sits there. The mammal section of the textbook has more asterisks for the platypus than for entire orders combined. Most people think the venomous spurs on its hind legs are for predators. Turns out males spur each other in mating fights. Honestly, every time scientists declare the platypus fully described, the platypus grows another feature. The mantis shrimp. There is a 4-inch crustacean on the reef whose eyes outclass yours by every measurable axis, and whose forearm strike would shatter your finger bones on contact. 2 world-class biological systems, packed into one body, and biologists can fully explain neither one. Start with the eyes. You have 3 types of color receptors. The peacock mantis shrimp has 16. It sees ultraviolet, polarized light, even circularly polarized light, which almost no other animal on Earth can detect. So you'd assume it sees more colors than you do. The common version of this is wrong. In lab tests, it actually discriminates fewer color shades than a person because it isn't blending channels at all. It's running pre-tagged ones, like reading a barcode instead of mixing paint. Now the punch. Its strike accelerates at over 10,000 Gs, hits at around 50 miles an hour, and creates cavitation bubbles in seawater that briefly reach roughly 8,000 degrees Fahrenheit. That's surface of the sun heat in tropical water for microseconds. The whole thing looks like a Mardi Gras costume welded onto a trash compactor. Honestly, it's a 4-inch animal carrying both a hyperspectral camera and a small caliber underwater pistol. The Bombardier Beetle. There is a beetle in your garden that, when threatened, fires hot benzoquinone vapor out of its rear with the precision of a turret gun. You have probably stepped near one. The reaction inside it should cook the beetle from the inside out. It doesn't. Here's how. The beetle keeps 2 reactants apart inside its abdomen, hydrogen peroxide and hydroquinone, in separate gland chambers. When something pokes it, those reactants slam together in a reinforced reaction chamber lined with catalysts. The mixture heats to 212 degrees Fahrenheit, the boiling point of water, and gets ejected as a scalding spray. Somewhere along the line, biology decided this insect needed an internal pulse jet, then shrunk the jet to a few millimeters and called it good. The pulsing is the trick. Actually, it's about 500 micropulses a second, and what sounds like one hiss is a strobe of explosions, each one giving the chamber microseconds to cool before the next. This one beetle in your garden ships from the factory with a chemical artillery rating. If you're enjoying learning about biology that scientists openly admit they're still arguing about, I post new animal deep dives like this regularly. Subscribing really helps me keep doing it. Thanks. The naked mole rat. It looks like a sausage with teeth. It also lives 10 times longer than a rodent its size should, and it almost never gets cancer. Cancer resistant, oxygen optional, pain blind to acid, cold-blooded, eusocial. 5 separate medical mysteries stacked into one wrinkled little mammal, and nobody has cleanly explained any of them, let alone all 5 together. A normal mouse lives about 3 years. A naked mole rat lives up to 37. Same general size, 12-fold gap. Their cells release a giant hyaluronan molecule that tells neighboring cells to stop dividing about twice as effectively as the human version, which essentially shuts the door on tumors before they form. Their brains can run on fructose without oxygen for nearly 20 minutes, which is something cardiac surgeons would commit minor crimes to install in human patients. The textbook entry on aging assumes mammals scale lifespan with body size. Then someone has to add a footnote, except for this one, for these reasons, which we have not finished writing down. There are pharmaceutical companies that exist solely to figure out what this rodent is doing right. Cancer, aging, oxygen, pain, 4 of medicine's hardest walls, and a rodent the size of a hot dog walked through all of them. The wood frog. In Alaska, there is a frog that lets itself freeze every winter. Heart stops, brain stops. Up to 70% of its body water turns to ice. Then in spring, it walks back out. Researchers have mapped most of how it pulls this off. Most. There's still an unidentified protective compound floating in its plasma. As temperatures drop, ice nucleates across the frog's skin, and the body floods its cells with glucose and urea as antifreeze. Blood sugar climbs to 100 times its normal level. For a human, twice normal blood sugar is a diabetic crisis. The wood frog uses 100-fold and walks it off in March. Scientists have been studying this animal for decades, and the best honest summary is we know what most of the antifreeze is, and there's something else in there at meaningful concentration we still can't name. Same molecule, very different verdict. The recipe for surviving an Alaskan winter, written in frog plasma, is missing an ingredient nobody can identify: the electric eel. It's a 6-foot fish that can deliver enough current to throw a horse off its feet, and until 2019, the textbook said there was 1 species of it. Then biologists looked closely. There are 3. One of them, Volta's electric eel, holds the record for the strongest biological electric shock on Earth at 860 volts. Despite the name, electric eels aren't eels. They're knife fish, more closely related to catfish than to anything you'd see in a moray's hole. About 80% of the body is electric organ, made of stacked cells called electrocytes that fire in unison. Until 2021, the textbook also said they hunt alone. Then a research team found packs of up to 10 in the Amazon, herding tetras into bait balls and zapping them in coordinated strikes. A wall socket runs at 120 volts. A single eel hits 860. A coordinated hunting party can theoretically dump 8,600 volts into one shoal of fish at the same time. Somewhere along the line, biology decided rivers needed industrial-grade lightning rods with personalities. It's a 6-foot fish that runs both a sonar system and a stun gun, and it owns the river. The axolotl. Cut off its leg. It grows back, with bones and nerves and skin pattern in the right places. Cut out part of its heart. That comes back too. Damage its spinal cord. Same answer. Every other limbed vertebrate had this trick once, in deep biological time, and lost it. Researchers want it back, and so far, nobody can switch it on in anything else. The axolotl is a salamander that never grows up. It stays in its larval form for life, and at the cellular level, the regeneration switch never flips off. It uses an unusually sensitive version of an on-off molecule called mTOR for protein production, and a chemical gradient of retinoic acid as a "where am I in the body" signal that tells regenerating cells exactly how much of the limb to rebuild. A scarred human cut, a skink dropping a tail and growing a soft replacement, an axolotl regrowing the entire arm with finger bones in the right order. It's a frilly pink alien with a permanent baby face, and it casually does what every regenerative medicine lab on Earth would kill for. The chapter on healing has an entire stricken paragraph next to it. Lost invertebrates, present in this one, mechanism unclear. Somewhere in the genome, all of us still have these instructions filed away. None of us can read them anymore. The honest version of this story is that the lab notebooks are full of question marks. The tardigrade. In 2007, the European Space Agency stuck living tardigrades on the outside of a satellite for 10 days. Vacuum, cosmic radiation, ultraviolet. Most of them came back alive. Some laid eggs after. They pull this off through a state called cryptobiosis, where they replace most of their body water with a sugar called trehalose and drop their metabolism below 1/100th of normal. They also, in certain species, carry a protein called DSUP, the damage suppressor, which physically wraps around DNA and shields it from radiation. When researchers spliced the DSUP gene into human cells, X-ray damage dropped about 40%. So just to recap, it's a 0.5 millimeter water bear with custom DNA armor, and the protein behind it has no analog in any other organism on Earth. Despite the name, not every tardigrade species is actually radiation-proof. A lot of them lack DSUP entirely, which means there are other partially mapped survival systems running in parallel that we haven't figured out yet. A lethal X-ray dose for you, a survivable dose for a DSUP-carrying tardigrade, roughly a 1,000-fold gap. It's a 0.5 millimeter animal with built-in armor for its DNA, and it shrugged off the vacuum of space. The Sea Slug Elysia. There is a green sea slug on the Atlantic coast that doesn't need to eat for most of its adult life. It runs on sunlight. Elysia chlorotica is an animal with a working photosynthesis habit, and it stole the equipment from a plant. When it's young, it pierces the cell wall of a specific algae called Vaucheria litoria with a single tooth, sucks out the contents, and keeps the algae's chloroplasts alive inside its own gut cells. Those stolen chloroplasts, called kleptoplasts, keep producing sugar for the slug for up to 9 months. Picture a houseplant on your windowsill. Now picture a leaf that walks. Now picture a slug doing both jobs at once. Here's where it gets weird. Chloroplasts normally need fresh proteins from the algae's nucleus to keep working. The slug somehow supplies them. Genetic studies have found at least one photosynthesis gene, PSBO, sitting in the slug's genome with the algae's exact sequence, which suggests the slug pickpocketed not just the equipment, but the manual. Cross-kingdom horizontal gene transfer into a multicellular animal genome is, on paper, almost not allowed. Yet it's sitting in the genome anyway. Scientists have been watching this slug for 40 years, and the leading theory is kind of, we're still figuring it out. The line between plant and animal turns out to be more of a suggestion. The Bdelloid Rotifer. In every drop of pond water on your roof, in damp moss, in puddles that haven't dried in days, there is an animal whose entire class hasn't bothered with sex in 80 million years. No males, ever. Not one documented. Bdelloid rotifers are microscopic, multicellular, and there are over 450 described species of them. Every single one female. Theory says asexual lineages should hit a genetic dead end and go extinct in a few million years tops. These didn't. They diversified into hundreds of species without sex. And here's the part that genuinely embarrasses textbook biology. Around 10% of their genome was acquired horizontally from bacteria, fungi, and plants. They appear to grab loose DNA fragments while dried out and stitch them in. When researchers challenge them with fungal pathogens, the stolen genes are the ones that get switched on hardest, including bacterial-style antibiotic synthesizers. Most animals get a genome from 2 parents. Bdelloid rotifers get theirs from 1 parent, plus a yard sale of other kingdoms. Their immune system is basically a hand-me-down toolbox. An entire class of animals decided sex was optional and never wrote it back into the contract. The Immortal Jellyfish. Most animals age. They tick toward a finish line. This jellyfish, when injured or starving, runs the clock backward. Turritopsis dornii is a transparent bell about the size of a fingernail, and when its life gets bad enough, instead of dying, it shrinks in on itself, settles to the sea floor, and reverts to its juvenile polyp stage. Over the next day or two, that polyp matures back into a swimming medusa, and the cycle starts over. The process is called transdifferentiation, and it means fully adult, fully specialized cells switch their identity entirely. Most cells differentiate once and stay that way for life. Some stem cells go in 2 directions. This animal runs the entire body backward. Genome studies show extra copies of DNA repair genes, telomere maintenance genes, and the same gene families used in stem cell pluripotency. Suggestive, not solved. Turns out the word immortal is doing some heavy lifting here. Predators eat it, disease kills it. It just isn't required to die of old age. If you cornered it hard enough, it would simply become a child again and walk it off. And the textbook closes itself mid-paragraph because the chapter on death no longer fully applies to the animal on the page. If you made it this far, I post new animal deep dives like this every week. Subscribe and I'll see you in the next one. Thanks for watching.